This is Gregory Michael, your host and moderator for Being Social, the weekly live on-air broadcast not limited to radio waves, but accessible to millions of users around the globe via the internet or phone, where all that you need is a voice, a concern, and a longing to be heard for social causes. We'll explore breaking down Obama health care. I, like you, have many unanswered questions, and we will explore the various aspects of the densely structured plan and attempt to bring some clarity as to what you should expect as the plan enters its final phases in 2014. We'll also explore the final phases of the 2014 plan and how it will affect the individual who has or does not have health care provided by an employer. Another concern is the small business owner and how they will be affected. In addition, how your relationship with your physician will be affected. How will the exchange system actually work? Why hasn't the government done a better job of explaining the plan in simpler terms? And of course, the economic impact on us all. And if you missed last week's episode 1.4, Diversity in the Entertainment Industry, you can listen or watch at acclaimedtheatricals.com, YouTube, as well as Vimeo. And it seems we have our first caller of the evening. Caller, please introduce yourself and tell us why you're calling.
I'm calling from Vermont.
Vermont. Wow. Different part of the country. Great. How'd you hear about the show?
Oh, I heard about it from a friend.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. I guess word of mouth counts for something. So what's your concern about health care? Tell us your employment situation. Are you an employer, a business owner, or are you a wage earner?
I would say wage earner.
Okay.
And my concern would be like being able to afford it. Affordability is the main thing.
Okay. Well, how up to speed are you? How knowledgeable would you say you are with the Obama health care plan, the Affordable Care Act?
Oh, probably like a lot of Americans. I really don't know a whole lot about it. So.
Okay. A lot of what we do know, I think, is by word of mouth. I was reading some articles earlier this week that says that many members of Congress haven't read the complete bill because it's so dense. Have you heard anything?
That's what you're mentioning now is what I have heard on the radio, that there's even more educated people. They're supposed to know the bill very well. They really don't have a lot of knowledge, and they can't answer people's questions. So,
right.
I think that's why we're here tonight. So, if anybody has any information, we can kind of find out what's going on with this, or what we should be concerned with, or is it something that's actually good, or is it bad? We really don't know because we don't know anything about it. So.
Well, it's like many bills that they pass. Oftentimes, we don't know all the components, and either they are incapable of explaining it, or they're too lazy to make the effort, and or they think that their citizens are just not capable of comprehending it. You know, it's insulting because we elect these officials to act on our behalf, but they do it with such arrogance and such hubris that oftentimes it's not our best interest that they have at heart. So, as I said before you came on air, I'm sort of in the middle of both categories because I'm a wage earner, I'm a freelancer. So, and even though I have access to healthcare through my union, to qualify for those benefits is so incredibly difficult. So I find myself being without health insurance most of the time. I had it, I think, 3 years ago through my union. But there's so many, and of course the economy, the economics since 2008 has affected every industry. You know, so now what's your situation? Do you currently have health insurance?
No, I was insured when I was working as a union worker. And it was so easy at the time because it's like you just pay your union dues, and they're not that high weekly. You have full coverage, and it's very good coverage. Now I have had coverage since that time, but I pay a lot more, and the coverage is way less.
Right. Yeah, and that's what happened with me. I had to drop the insurance because the coverage went down by like 30%, and the fees went up by like 30%. So for me, just physically, it wasn't conducive like most Americans, especially now we're single. Just imagine the average family of 3, what that's like.
Yeah.
You know, it's half your mortgage is going to health insurance. And I've heard that for most people that do face bankruptcy, medical expenses or a medical crisis is often the reason.
Right. I can barely afford myself, let alone somebody else. So, yeah, I just couldn't imagine someone having a family.
Yeah.
And having to pay everything, and plus their health coverage, which is going to be a lot more for them as a family person than for me as a single person.
Yeah. I don't even know what the national average is. I think it's something like $400 a month for an individual, for a freelancer. So you can imagine what it is for a family of three.
Oh yeah, and then that's like something that your mind can even get around. $400 just for one individual. I used to pay $4 a week, and it had way better coverage than when I was paying like $100 a month at the time when I started carrying more expensive coverage, and it had nowhere near the coverage. Too. Sometimes, like I think a lot of Americans just didn't even bother to cover or carry it. They're like, well, I really can't afford it. I have to pay my bills, I have to pay rent, everything. And the coverage is like not really there. I don't have the same coverage. I'm paying all this money, and what am I going to get out of it in the end?
Right. And it's like the government doesn't really offer any kind of tax incentive for you paying out of pocket. It's very nominal. When it comes time to filing your income tax, you get a higher interest return on your mortgage for the interest on your mortgage than you do your health care.
Right.
No, truly. And the student loans, you get a higher write-off on your interest that you're paying on student loans and your mortgage than you do on health care, which is far more important.
Right. And me living in Vermont, my concern was I actually had heard on the radio. It's different for each state. Each state's going to have its own exchange. Some states will participate in the federal, and other states will just do it on their own.
Right.
And it's like they're saying on the radio, 260 months to 600, depending on the coverage. Well, I can't even picture that. It's like I'm sure the coverage is going to be as good as it was in the past. But $260, even if you're just doing the minimum, how are you going to throw that on top of your rent and everything you've got? That's like having another car payment.
Right. Exactly.
I learned that some people are actually going to be paying as much as 600 because they need more coverage. So for a single person, even too much. So how is the government going to kick in? How is the government going to help? Are they going to subsidize it somehow? Or is the cutoff level going to be as a person? Is the cutoff level going to be so low that basically hardly anybody can get assistance in paying the health coverage? I do see this issue. I do see why they felt that they had to do something about our healthcare crisis in America, but they just ended up creating another crisis. Perhaps it's not as bad as what I'm thinking, but again, I'm uneducated. I don't really know what circumstances it would be or how it's going to work out, and I think most people don't know how it's going to work.
Well, here's the thing. It's like you don't have to be highly educated. Like I said, most members who are educated in Congress don't even bother to read the bill. So I would say the average citizen is just as educated and qualified to read the document. We probably would if we had access to the thing, at least read through half of it, the parts that are relevant to us, but they haven't even done that. And that's their job.
Well, they probably really don't care to because it doesn't really affect them.
Of course. They don't.
They're the ones who affect that.
Exactly. When it comes to exchanges, I'd mentioned an article that I found in Forbes magazine. It came out earlier this week. And it said it was talking about the exchanges, the state exchanges, and how they work. I don't know. Are you familiar with the exchanges and how they work?
No, it's just some kind of. I think there's so many insurance companies that participate in exchanges. The more insurance companies that participate, the more competition, the lower the rates will be. And if more states choose to participate together, like in a national, or do it collectively, that would bring the rates down to some degree. But not all states are going to participate in a larger scale healthcare system. A lot of them are going to do it on their own, like Vermont's talking about doing its own system. So, but 260 to 600 a month is quite a lot of extra money to be putting out. It's like if your rent went up by $25 or $50 a month, you would have to factor that in when you're doing a budget.
Of course.
That extra month, but now you're factoring hundreds of dollars more a month.
Of course you are.
So how are people going to do that? Everybody has to choose between health care and their rent.
Or food.
They're going to have to prioritize it. They're not going to have a choice. They're going to be in serious fees.
Right.
And that's the first person that's going to be affected by those fees is the poorest of the people.
Pardon?
I said that probably the ones that would be affected most by it would be the lower scale people, the poorer people. The ones that are marginal, they're not quite low enough to qualify for any assistance, but yet they barely are above the line. They've come down way below it when you factor in the extra expense, but the ones that are figuring that out and what your eligibility is probably not even going to factor that in.
Right. Right. Well, like I was saying, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Repeat that.
No, I said we as the working people, like you mentioned about being a freelance artist, we are the ones that know what it's like. We know what the experience is like, and we we are the ones that are fearing because we are the ones that have to deal with it. And we're like, well, how are we going to cope with this when it comes into play?
Right, but there was also the small business owner. I've been hearing a lot. There are a lot of small business owners who are panicking because they're saying that they are going to have to stop hiring or to cut their work staff in half, because I think there's a cap where if you have more than 30 employees full time that you have to provide insurance for them. Is that right? Something along those lines?
I had heard 50.
50.
So I don't know which, again, you hear things, but you don't really know, but I heard it was 50 employees or about
Right.
50. I was participating in this. I also had heard if an employer employs you for at least 29 hours a week or more, they would have to contribute. So
Right.
I don't know how that's going to work, because knowing how businesses work, especially large corporations, I'm not going to complain too much about small ones because it really is hard for them to try to survive. They don't have they don't have the financial ability to withstand these extra expenses like the large industries and large businesses.
Right.
So, but they would probably just try to come up shy of that, cut the people's hours back so that they don't have to contribute to it.
Right. Now I know two of the president's biggest campaign platforms or issues that he used to sell this program was it would protect people with pre-existing conditions, and children were the two most who would benefit the most and the most immediately as the program began in 2010. Now of course 2014 is when the final phases of the plan are to come into its resolution. Do you know exactly what those final phases are?
Well, the only final phase that I know is when everybody has to be carried insurance. I know that the first, because I've known people that benefit from it, and they were usually like children still living at home with a parent, like up to the age of 26, it would be covered.
Right.
I don't know if that included like if they had to be in school or not to be covered, but I believe it was just in general. And I found out from somebody that they weren't covered past the age of 19 because if they're involved in the military.
Really?
We're not covered.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The military.
Yeah, right, because I guess maybe they expect they would come under some kind of benefits to their parents or something. I don't know. But one guy that I was working with in my last job said that he was trying to get his teeth done and different things because he was no longer going to be covered after the age of 19. It didn't benefit him because of being in the military.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's really
So
interesting.
those are those little things that we might not be aware of in that long document that's written out that nobody really has full information about. There's a lot in that, and it's going to take us a while to figure out how it affects us all individually and for each one's circumstance.
Right. Well, I do know that there are, what they have is with the exchanges, with each state, there are these online services. This was an article I had referenced it earlier before you came on. That was in Forbes, and it was regarding these exchanges, the ACA. And now what it basically said is this: in order to assist the state exchanges in reaching out and bringing in potential participants, the ACA Affordable Care Act created a fund to pay navigators, or basically think of them as a small-time lobbyists, is how I perceive them. They're charged with the job of assisting uninsured Americans in understanding the policies available to them and what might best meet their insurance needs. Now, approximately 20 million people have visited these online services, such as ehealthinsurance.com, with roughly 10 million of these visitors falling into the 18 to 34-year-old demographic. So you see that's just coming out of college, and that's when you're going to find that first important job that you're probably going to stay with for 5 or so years, traditionally. But of course, we know that that's changed with the cost of education and the economy. A lot of the kids graduating are being unemployed and having to do fast food service jobs or Starbucks, or, those jobs are fine, but it's not what you wanted to get your degree for. It's not what you went to get a bachelor's or master's or MBA for, is to work in a fast food restaurant. You're paying $100,000 for a degree and you're working in a fast food restaurant, and that's becoming a norm.
Right. Because if a person comes out of school, if I don't have a degree, I could go to these places. Maybe I could get so-called promotion. Maybe I become an establishment manager. But how does that benefit me as far as what I got and invested as far as degree? I could have done that without earning the degree.
Exactly.
That's very disappointing for people coming out of school. And then they still have that to pay back, which brings their what their actual earnings are down.
Right.
Because you still got the extra expense of paying all that back.
Exactly. It's really sad. I mean, you pursue the American dream of working hard, doing the right thing. You're not taking shortcuts. You're going into $100,000 in debt for something that's going to take you 20 to 25 years to pay off. And you can't have health, and you can't have health care. What blows my mind is that whenever in America we hear the term social medicine or social anything, when we're comparing ourselves to a European country or even Canada that does provide social welfare, Medicare, medical services to their population, yet America freaks out and we're opposed to it. I'm like, but then when you look at what we do have that's not working, you have seriously.
Those countries with socialized medicine, though, they pay for it with their taxes and they're covered. It's not like they got to buy a particular policy.
Right.
Like whether it's in Europe or it's in Canada. This is totally different. This is like, I guess you could say socialized because it's forced by the government for everybody, but it's not covered the same way. It's not, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say that it's socialized medicine. It doesn't work the same as it's set up in those other countries.
No, I'm not saying that we have socialized medicine, but I'm saying anytime this country hears the term socialized or anything that even mimics that, right, they freak out.
Right away. They don't even investigate or think it through. It's just automatically a door closes.
Right.
And like I said, something needs to be done, but that I don't personally feel that was the way to do it. But again, I'll base an opinion upon what I think it's going to be when it actually goes into effect. The latter phase of the year 2014.
Well, I applaud the president for laying a foundation for universal health care. It may not be as comprehensive as we'd like, but the fact that he did get it accomplished, I do applaud him on that. It was not an easy thing, especially when you have both sides of the party line fighting against you, even your own party in opposition, of you doing this. It's amazing to me that, your own party is fighting against you for something that you're doing for the common good, for everyone. I can't imagine. I would not want that job of POTUS. That's not a job. I don't know why anyone would. I understand being a public servant. Go ahead.
Right. I would see maybe this way of doing it was difficult too because he's trying to find a way that's really profitable. Like we're so far in debt. How do we make this work financially? And it's like somehow they're going to have it traded on the stock market and stuff. So it's an investment, and they're going to get more money back because everybody says, well, we can't afford it. It's just going to drain the country. We're not going to have money to do this coverage. And he supposedly has it set up in a way that it's going to make money. It's going to draw money back into the government. And there's an investment process. I don't know how that investment process works. It's going to drain the country of its funds. They're going to get money back from doing it this way. But again, we would need some kind of class or some kind of instruction of how this works, and nobody's really informed. And the ones that do have any knowledge don't really even care, but it doesn't personally affect them. They don't have to have no personal motivation to even open up documents, read it, study it, and figure it out, or to even pass it on to us, because why would they care about us? But they're technically there to service us, the government, and we the people.
Right.
We established the government, and we have the government there so that things can work, things can be organized, that, not have anarchy. It takes care of things in society, so we have a system that takes care of people that need help, or legal matters that need to be resolved. We need something, but it's kind of like almost evolved into its own entity, and it's not really taking care of the people. So.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, how does anyone get the true information? Different people are trying to research it, but not everybody knows the exact resource to go to get all the answers.
And when do you know when the actual date is that the final changes take place?
I don't know if it's January 1st or 14th.
But it is January. So it's right after the new year.
Definitely January 2014, and that would be the last phase of it. So that's the worst part of it, as most people are seeing it, and they're dealing with it, is the final phase.
Okay.
Where we have no choice by law. We have to go. We have to purchase power.
Wow.
There are benefits to it because there's people that now can get health coverage that could be for pre-existing conditions. Well, when I heard that, I was like, well, that's a good thing, It's kind of not fair that a person, they can't help it if they already have a condition. Now they can't get any kind couldn't get it because you had a pre-existing condition, you're kind of like, what do you do? You're kind of like stuck there. Nobody's going to help you.
You're very stuck. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And it kills me because this country has so much wealth, unequally proportioned, granted. And I'm not saying it's the responsibility of the private corporations either. The government, we spend money, we'll spend billions of dollars on wars. And, we'll do all of these, create multi-million-dollar weapons and technology, but we won't invest it back in the people.
Right.
The very basics of humanity, its foundation, that's not the priority, and I don't understand it. How can you what they say about sweep around your own door before you tell someone else what to do? I'm like, we're not keeping our house in order. It's not in order. When you neglect the basics. Pardon?
Actually, part of defending your own and taking care of your own is not just going to war and fighting to defend your country. You got to take care of your people too, individually. On your own soil. They have to be, in order to be a strong nation and to survive, or even if the U.S. wants to promote so-called democracy or wants to promote humanitarian conditions, they have to start at home. And they have to have humanitarian conditions here. They have to take care of the people that need help here. There's nothing wrong with taking care of others or trying to help them, but you're not really helping them if you're letting your own, you're just leaving them by the wayside.
Exactly.
That's not humanitarian.
Exactly.
So, yes, so you're right about all that money that's invested so much in that technology and in war, but you defend the nation is falling apart at home.
Exactly.
You have to have some kind of balance, or you have to not just take care of one area. You have to take care of everything. That's what's supposed to manage everything.
Yeah, and it's the same way with education. It's like, if you're not investing in education, what kind of future could your country possibly have? If people are coming out of graduate school and they can't afford, they have to get a minimum wage earner job just to pay their rent or keep food in the house, whether single or married or whatever. It's like, where's the motivation to get a higher degree? Most people who qualify for Ivy League colleges now are having to settle for state schools. And don't get me wrong, I went to a state school. There are a lot of great, well-funded state schools. CUNY University is one of the best in the country. But I mean, seriously, it's like, how can you, it just blows my mind. It's hard to justify.
Yeah.
And I'm hard pressed to challenge a politician to justify not investing in education and healthcare, for the foundation of our nation.
And where are those people going to get the money from to be able to pay this extra bill if they can't get a job that pays more than minimum wage, or maybe $3 an hour more than that?
Yeah.
With the expense, the cost of living, and with everything constantly going up, And as the value of our dollar decreases with debt that we owe, that's going to cause the value of the dollar to decrease, which causes the prices to go up. They have to get more to maintain a profit.
Exactly. And the thing is, we have go ahead.
A person is not going to be able to afford this health care coverage if they can't even pay. They're struggling, what you mentioned, just to pay for their regular bill. And how is a person ever going to get money to even go to school with all this expense from to begin with?
Exactly.
So like you said, how is the country going to prosper if people have a good workforce? People are well educated and trained to be able to go out and do these jobs.
Well, there's such a large chasm now between the haves and the have-nots. As far the chasm's never been larger, and I think people are losing disrespect and disregard. I look at employers, I look at startup companies now, and the wages that they're posting for jobs that require specific skills, computer skills, and they're offering less than minimum wage. I'm like, where in the psychology of the workforce have they been taught that is a fair and equitable living wage that a person could exist on? Something's really wrong with our value system, when these generations are coming out expecting to pay below minimum wage for high-tech, qualified jobs, positions that not just anyone could walk in and do.
Right.
I've experienced that myself.
People that are making a little money are not going to be able to, they're not going to be able to contribute to the economy. They're not going to be able to go out and shop, buy the products of these companies. It's like a consumer-based economy, but where's that money going to come from? Where are the consumers going to be?
Exactly.
And now the concern is like, do consumers, there's going to be less of them with the burden of the extra expense of healthcare when they're bringing this about at a time when they haven't even straightened out how people can survive to begin with.
Exactly.
And a lot of times people probably, there's going to contribute to more health crises because people are going to be so stressed and so worked just trying to survive, it's going to break down their health.
Yeah, because of course that stress and all of that turns into crime. When you can't feed your family, people are going to do what they have to do, and that means the crime rate goes up. So we become more paranoid, more, more pensive, and the socialization breaks down. We don't communicate. It's like it's just there's no positive side to it by not investing back in the people in your land, your home, your country. There's no upside to that at all.
Right. So if you're truly trying to look out after the people and you're trying to take care of them, why would you continuously put them in such a situation? If this health care coverage is supposed to help the Americans, how is it going to help them when now it turns around and becomes an additional burden to them because they did not straight out existing problems to begin with before bringing this into existence?
Right.
Because you're really going to take care of people, you have to make sure that they have a livable wage, they can pay their bills, actually be contributing members to society, both by working and actually contribute where they can be part of the purchasing process. They become consumers, which keeps the businesses expanding and growing.
Yeah.
So, but now it's like this healthcare coverage is just going to burden people more, and now they got another bill on top of it. So, and there's nowhere to turn and make money. Where are you going to go and make money? You even hire skilled jobs for paying nothing. So, I don't know. It's like that's why a lot of people are concerned about this. That's why they want more information, because how is it going to affect me? I already have this, and I'm already cutting this out. I'm even cutting out the investments now. Now I got to take on a huge expense, not like $25, $50 more a month or whatever, or $75 a month. Now I'm throwing hundreds of dollars on myself. Then I got to work another 20 to 30 hours a month to be able to pay just that one bill, health coverage.
And you're being taxed, of course, on top of that, state, city, federal, everything else. And you're paying gas if you're commuting back and forth, whatever, whether you're, commuting by public transportation or you're driving. So all of that adds in. So it makes it harder to even break even. It's hard to save money for emergencies, with something like that.
Do you qualify for any kind of assistance from the government to help you pay for health coverage? I'm sure that they're not going to count gas as one of your expenses.
Right.
Because usually you can't claim that as an expense unless you own a business.
Right.
As a regular worker, you can't claim anything. So that's not something they're going to count. It's not your heating bill. It's not your food bill. It's not your rent. It's not the things they count. They don't even count. Like some people take $70 a month because that's what we're done. People $100 because that's how far you have to go. And being in Vermont, you got too many further distances to be able to get anywhere.
Well, that brings. No, pardon me. Go ahead, please. You were saying.
No, it's just it's very expensive, and once you get done with all those expenses, you have nothing left to take on an additional expense because it costs so much just to get to work. Because going to work is an investment to get money.
Of course,
and your return on that investment is very low.
Right. Well, that's why. Well, next week the topic is high-speed rail in America. To have or have not. That was another major part of the president's initial campaign. His presidential campaign was that he was going to invest in high-speed rail across America as another way of creating jobs. I don't know what happened to that effort. Have you heard any information lately about that?
No, I have heard absolutely nothing. I did hear about it a number of times, and there was an example where they were going to run one from Montreal right down to where you're at, actually, in New York City.
Right.
So it would be very convenient. People in the rural areas could travel more efficiently. What they could do is they could have a very cheap rate for people that ride it regularly just from one city to another, and they use it.
We have, the Acela line that goes to, I think, from Manhattan to D.C. It's very popular. It's a very in-demand service. So I don't understand. We have the infrastructure, and that would be a great source of jobs, of employment, and revenue for the country overall, and taxation for each state. So I don't understand why they're in opposition of that, why we're not engaging more aggressively. That was a large part of the president's campaign promise.
right, initially it would create jobs for people to be installing those lines, and then afterwards it could start to pay off. Like, how many people sometimes do get to take the day off and but if they have, people can get on and off, and even just between one town and another in between, they don't get charged a big rate. The trains would probably be full all the time.
Yeah.
They would have full seats, and that's where it would start to pay off because they're not just on their line and it's just costing them.
But I mean, just think of the volume of employment that could provide people and the health care that they would be able to afford. You know, you'd have more people contributing into the plan, into the state revenue. It seems that we've lost reception with our caller. Perhaps you'll call back. But it's really great to hear the feedback. We have other callers scheduled to come online. I don't know where they are or if they will be calling in, but this alone was very insightful. The line will remain open if any of the public would like to chime in. If you have any data that you may have heard, any research, any knowledge of any significant components of the healthcare plan, the Affordable Care Act, that you'd like to. Oh, you're still there. Great. I thought we lost you. Yes. Still on air. Go ahead. Pick up where you left off because we lost you for about a full minute there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not even realize that.
Yes.
I'm here running off the mouth, and I didn't even know nobody was listening but me.
No, that's fine. Please.
I was just saying, like, how people could use the system more if it were much more efficient, you know.
Right.
Because now they're still running the line, but maybe they don't have full capacity, like with all the people using it and investing their personal money in it, using the system because it's not efficient enough for them to use.
Right.
So they have to find a way to get, and let's hope as well with this healthcare system, it might not work if they don't make it efficient enough for everybody to be able to use that.
Well, it's projected that more and more companies are investing in metropolitan dwellings, meaning inner city living for their employees. They're providing more housing closer to their home offices like in Manhattan or Los Angeles or Miami. So those are places that, you know, you have smart cars and you have green cars for shorter distances. So it's like people are looking for ways to save money and time. Traveling has become such a daunting effort, especially by air travel. Most people don't want to deal with it. And if I could take a high-speed train across the country and be there within a day, I would gladly do it. You know, if it were affordable. You know, I mean, so many people would.
Yeah. Well, see, people wouldn't even mind having health care and stuff if it were affordable, but it's gotten so out of control. Oh, and what's the cap going to be on what these places can charge you, a hospital, doctors, stuff like that? So you got to get the cost under control for their force people to pay for it, and they have very limited funds. Well, everybody has to work together to break it down and make it affordable for everybody.
Well,
so I don't have any information about what's being done with that.
And I don't. Unfortunately, in the regulations on insurance companies, you know, and the exchanges, I do know that a part of the plan, they have some very tight regulations on the exchanges themselves and the companies that will guide participants toward the proper exchange. They had to go through a lot of pre-qualifying regulations, so they are monitoring them closely. But like any system, there will be abuse. You know, rather by insurance companies, rather by the navigators that have been hired by the government, the federal government, to guide participants toward these online exchanges like ehealthcare.com and so forth. So, you know, there will be regulation, but it's going to take a time like any new system. It's going to take a few years to get the bugs out and find out where the flaws are. And there will be some abuse, unfortunately. But
will we be able to survive that time period until the flaws worked out financially?
Well, let's hope. Yeah, we can only hope.
You mentioned a good point about the flaws as far as like people being able to, you know, even the ones that are going to try to take advantage of it from doing that. But all these extra people have been hired in government, and what is the IRS actually? They're extending that department for people to control and watch us to make sure that we're all complying with the rules and we all buy health insurance. But I'm afraid they're probably watching us more than the ones that are behind the scenes that could be tipping their hands and putting the system off.
Well, I think since 2008, we have an inherent mistrust of government, and that's just a fact. Of Wall Street, in particular, the financial systems. I think we definitely, as citizens, have learned that we cannot trust these guys to have, even our own banks, to have our best interest at heart. They are there to make a profit. And unfortunately, they'll do that on your back. Not all of them. There are exceptions to any rule, but the large banks, AIG, Lehman Brothers, we know. And I think that in our and let's face it, in investment, psychology is a large part of investment. You know, it plays a large part into Wall Street, NASDAQ, all of it. So it's like that inherent trust that we've lost when the system tanked. It's going to take decades for that to come back. You know, there's going.
Right. And it's not just a mistrust of the government; it's a mistrust of corporations in general, too.
Exactly.
Right.
The governing bodies, though, they have a greater responsibility now. You know.
Right. And when they go to implement something like that, they should take that into consideration. They shouldn't just hire more people to watch us and make us comply. They should have an overall system that also makes the people that are interacting in a way to make this work are controlled or monitored as well, so that everything goes that flows smoothly.
Exactly.
So, because otherwise, how's the system going to work if there's too much leakage in between? And it doesn't even have anything to do with us, the individual. It's the government itself is like trying to collapse itself because there's so much going on that they can't keep track of.
Right. All right.
And like I said, it's their own system, their own government, their own setup that is it has all these leaks. It's actually working against itself. It shouldn't be.
Exactly. I agree. All right. Well, caller, I thank you again. I'm sorry. Your name again?
Oh, Zavi J.
Zavi J. Calling from Vermont. We thank you very much for your insight. You really gave us an interesting perspective on on the bill itself, on the components. It's good because you're calling from a different region of the country to give us some insight. And again, I think there's a book that I referenced earlier in the broadcast called Survival Guide for Obama Healthcare. It's very inexpensively priced. You can find it online. So do a Google search if you're interested in finding out more details about the Obama Healthcare or the Act for Affordable Healthcare, of course. So we thank you, caller, for calling in. And I think we have another caller coming in. Zavi J, you're welcome to stay online if you'd like to listen to the next caller and perhaps get some feedback. Hello, caller. Welcome to Being Social. Welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you're calling.
Yeah, my name is Rich, and I'd like to discuss the Obama health care.
Well, welcome, Rich. We've been on for about 15 or 20 minutes. We've been talking about all the components. So what are your concerns about Obama healthcare, or what questions do you have that we might be able to discuss in the forum?
Well, when I was visiting my doctor, he told me that it's going to cost him, that he might have to add an employee or two to handle all of the paperwork and insurance claims. He thought he might just retire.
That's really interesting because before you came on air, I don't know if you were listening to the online hangout earlier, but one of the things that I discussed was that there was an article in Forbes magazine earlier this week. What's happening is that a part of the plan here, I'll read it to you briefly. It says, in order to assist the state exchanges in reaching and corralling potential participants, the ACA created a fund to pay for navigation changes. What it's basically saying, I'll break it down for you, is that a lot of doctors, over 40 million doctors, are talking about leaving the profession because they simply won't be able to afford to continue to practice under the Obama healthcare plan.
Yeah, that really echoes what my doctor was telling me, and I was not able to hear you earlier, but he really stressed that it would be, a problem, and hiring 2 new full-time employees with plus benefits for them would really be a detriment to him.
Yeah, even if you have a small office, I think it's somewhere between 30 and 50. If you have 30 to 50 full-time employees or even part-time employees making around 29 to 30 hours a week, as an employee, you're required to offer them to provide their health care insurance, at least supplement it, I think. And that can be significant for a small business owner, as a sole proprietor. That's a lot of overhead. And I understand.
Yeah, I kind of see it as choking the country. That's my opinion on it, and that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Now, as far as, do you currently have health care?
Yes.
Are you paying it yourself, or do you have it through a union, or through your job, or?
Because because I'm self-employed, it is a cost to me each month.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just discussing that with you. We had another caller on the line, and he's a wage earner. He's an employer. He's an employee, pardon me, but we were talking about it, and I fall in both categories, being a freelancer and owning a small business, and I know I'm going to be hiring a significant amount of people over the next year. So I'm concerned to well, is it feasible for me to do that? Will I be able to afford to hire those people, or am I going to have to figure out a way, to scale it back? It's like the government encourages small businesses and startups, but yet then we get hit with like a hammer in the back of the head with something like, thousands of dollars per month in possible additional overhead.
It is really not conducive to the small business owner to have this force-fed down our throats, because I was a small business owner as well. Really just had part-timers, so I didn't have to be concerned about the benefits. But, as it grew, I may have had to have been. But, yeah, it's really force-fed, down our throats. And the government has talked about, helping, grow our small business. Well, this I don't see as a help.
Yeah, it's really going to be hard, not only on a business owner, but also the consumer. Think about all the people who are unemployed. And let's face it, the states like New York don't pay very much on a weekly salary for unemployment. So you're asking people to start with a minimum, I think, of $200 a month to pay for health insurance. When some people are working 2 jobs or are unemployed and have been for more than a year, where's that money supposed to come from?
Yeah, it's very difficult for people trying to come up, like we discussed earlier in the program, where's that money going to come from and make this sustainable for healthcare coverage, and how we could solve the issue of our crisis in America for health coverage. Now we've created another crisis. So what are we going to do from here?
Yeah. It's like, you're not investing in education. I applaud him for starting some kind of foundation and trying to create some kind of universal healthcare plan. We need something. And we're a wealthy enough nation that we should be able to come up with something. We spend money on so many things like wars and weapons and all of that we talked about earlier. But there has to be a better way than imposing it on people who are already impoverished and already still trying to recover from 2008 and the financial crisis. It's just...
I had people that I used to be involved with a French group in Burlington. I don't go down there anymore because, again, the gas is expensive to commute back and forth except for work. And the people from France, they couldn't believe that we lived like we do in America. How many of us couldn't afford health coverage and we didn't have some kind of system set up where theirs is like socialized medicine in France. It's like when they start a new job, instantly 3 weeks free vacation. They don't have to work years on vacation time. And their health coverage, they don't even really have to think about it. They pay taxes, they're automatically covered. Like, what? We didn't know the U.S. was like this. The greatest nation, but it's got this reputation of being so wealthy and so great and strong in the world. Wow. And they can't even take care of their own people for health coverage.
Yeah.
But that was back before Obamacare, but now we're trying to discuss, like, are we any better off or not with trying to come up with this product?
Yeah. Rich, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't know if you were able to hear that. We have another caller with us from Vermont who's on the line, and he's giving some insight. We were just talking about how, comparing our country to Europe or other countries that have established universal health care. It's amazing because we're such a wealthy and young nation comparatively to Europe, of course. But you would think that we would learn from watching other nations and their history, their mistakes, or how they've structured things and how to emulate some kind of plan universally to provide for the nation without bankrupting those that are creating jobs. Any thoughts? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, Rich, are you still there? Hello? I guess Rich left us, or maybe the reception cut out. But
Okay.
yeah.
I wasn't talking too much.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. No, this is an open forum. It's for anyone to drop in, And like I said, Rich was one of the people who sent an invitation, so he came online, and I'm glad to have, like I said, I'm glad that you guys see this interesting enough, and that you have a voice and an opinion that you want to be heard. It's a public forum, so I'm glad that you're using it. Next week's episode is High-Speed Rail in America, to have or have not. You can always find out what the next week's program is by going to eventbrite.com. I have created the entire Season 1 program listing of all 12 episodes and topics available to peruse and see if there's anything else of interest to you. You can always RSVP simply by going to eventbrite.com and search for podcast Being Social and look for my name as the host, Gregory Michael, or do a Google search and it'll take you there as well. So I'm enjoying doing these because I get to give voice to my concerns, and I'm open to, callers also emailing or calling and letting me know of topics that are important to them. So by all means, as a listener, Zavi J or Richard or anyone else, if you have topics that you want to discuss or that are of concern to you, by all means, send us an email to admin, ADMIN, at acclaimtheatricals.com, or simply go to eventbrite.com, and when you search for the podcast, you'll see the organizer's contact information. That's me. You can simply send me an email, and I'll be happy to consider your topic for the next season, for season 2 in the fall, for the schedule. People get sidelined and sidetracked, so I understand that. But regardless, I always have plenty to talk about. I have no problem with that. And it's a very important topic to me. So I hope that this information will be available also for any listeners who couldn't come on air tonight or who are interested. You can always go to YouTube or Vimeo. Either of those sites, it's for free and it's hosted there. Each episode is hosted there each week to listen to for free. You can also go to acclaimtheatricals.com or gregorymichael.com, and you can always see or listen to the podcast via your phone or whatever web browser you're using. So yeah, we appreciate you, Zavi J, chiming in tonight. Really appreciate your insight. Thank you very much.